So how does Maya work? Once you open Maya, you'll see this grid. It is our perspective view. Uh, One important tool you'll need to understand how to use is your mouse and the Alt Option key on the keyboard. By holding down the Alt Option key and dragging, you should be able to move your grid around. This will be similar in most other 3D programs that you play with in the future. Um, if you hold the right click and drag with the Alt option, you should be able to zoom in and out. And with the middle click, you should be able to pan. Let us create a new object by going up here to the menu, and you'll see that there is a create option. Now, there's many ways to create what is called primitives. Primitives are basic shapes to get us started. And there are NURBs and polygons, which are the two main things, but we are going to focus on polygon primitives. Most applications, 3D printing, games, use the polygon primitive as the basis, using polygons to create your objects. So we will go ahead and create a cube, and you'll see here there's a cube. Now, if I zoom in on it, okay, it doesn't get bigger, of course. I'm just getting closer with my camera. My point of view is from the camera's point of view. If I actually want to make the box or the cube bigger, I have to use one of these 3 tools. Now, the first tool that is really important is the Move tool. If you click on that, you'll see your X, Y, and Z coordinates, and you can move it in only that direction if you choose to, or only that, or only this. Now, if you grab it in the middle, you can move it in this dimension, but what is that dimension? It looks like I'm moving it to the right or left, and I might be moving it down. You can imagine it could be going down or up. I'm not quite sure, so it's hard to tell sometimes. So I kind of have to look around or imagine from this viewport. It's kind of hard to know exactly where it is in space. So by using these, you can really know exactly where you're trying to get it. Okay. Now, if I hit F on my keyboard, it will zoom in on my cube so I can be a little closer and move it around this way. Okay. Now, this next tool is also very important. It's the rotation tool. If you grab it from this middle area, it can wobble it in all sorts of ways and get really crazy with it. But if you really are trying to limit it to only this way, like a spinning cube going down the road this way, then you have to pick that axis. This yellow one uses the plane that you're looking through right now. So of course, if I change it, now it's this plane that I'm looking through. Okay. And lastly, I'm going to hit Command Z, or Control Z if you're on a PC. I can use the scale tool. Again, from the middle, it does all directions, but if I go here, it just does just that direction. Okay. And of course, you can flip it negative. Okay. So with these 3 tools, you should be able to start now creating walls for your room. Of course, this is not the way I do it, but if you felt like this is enough, then you can go ahead and use the scale tool to scale up a wall, make it longer. Use the grid if you want as the ground. And if you use the grid as a ground, then you can kind of raise it up. Okay. And you're like, well, I'm not quite sure. Is that exactly? And this is kind of a tricky thing. It's exactly on the floor. If you hit the space bar, not really quickly, but kind of a little quickly, it will go into this 4 viewport mode. The advantage of this 4 viewport mode is that you can really see it from this orthographic view, and you can really see if it's touching that grid mark plane. Now, if you hit the spacebar again and you have your mouse hovering around this plane, you'll see this becomes the main panel that you can look through, the main viewport that you can look through. If I hit the spacebar again, I see my 4 view, and I can go here to my perspective view. This is my front view, side view, top view. Again, spacebar, and again I can hit F to zoom, and I can see, yeah, it's pretty nicely on the ground there. Okay. Now, I can grab and create another cube and try to do that again, and that would totally be okay. Of course, since I went ahead and made a pretty nice wall here, I'm going to try to copy it. Now, there is an edit, copy, and paste, of course, but I use Command D, which is duplicate. Now, if you duplicate or hit Command D, it will duplicate it, and you'll see this kind of changed a little bit. It's because there's two walls in the same space. So if I grab this red, I can move it this way. Now the nice thing of doing it this way also is that this wall and this wall are aligned perfectly. Again, if you look at this side view, they're aligned perfectly. Now you're like, well, how do you know? Well, I don't know exactly, except that it's not going to be bigger, or it could be smaller hiding behind. So how do I know that, how do I see it? I can go and click on my keyboard and hit the number 4 key. The number 4 key is a shortcut to see wireframe mode. And you can see I can't see another wall. And if I grab this wall and move this out, oh, there it is. Okay. Now, shortcut keys are really important. Of course, you can do here wireframe or smooth shade all. But the important shortcuts are 4 and 5. 5 lets you see it in the shaded mode, and 4 lets you see it in wireframe mode. Okay. Alrighty. So can we do that again? Of course you can. We can go Command D and make another wall, and you can try to rotate it 90 degrees, but of course we're not going to get it exactly 90 degrees doing it this way. You know, we could get pretty close, you know, if we look at this and we try to line it up, but it's really, really tricky to get it exactly 90 degrees. So we do have, like in Photoshop, like in Animate, like in Illustrator, these tools here. Now, if this panel is not open for you because my computer might have been defaulted here, you will find these buttons up here on the top, and the one that you want to mess with is the one here in the back. It looks like a bunch of sheets together. And here is, you'll see the translate X and Y and Z. That's its location in space. Okay. Alrighty. This is its Y and Z. And of course, I can go here and type in exactly -90. Oops, let's see here. And then that will be exactly -90. If I do -45. Now, because of these other rotations, it's kind of rotating -45 based on this relative position. So I can type in 0 here, and 0 here. And now you see it's 45 degrees exactly. Now, 90 works too. But when I rotated it, I must have done it in the -90. Okay. And of course, you can rotate it and see the numbers change. If you're kind of trying to say like, oh, I want it to be like 60 degrees. So you go close to 60. And of course, it's going to be tricky to get exactly 60. And you're like, oh, that's close enough to what I want. And then I go ahead and type in -60. And then you can use this to make hexagons or whatnot. Okay. But of course, in my case, I just want it to be a 90-degree wall, and I can move it here. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and grab all the walls and make sure that their Y is the same at 0. And then I can shift select all of them, like you're shift selecting multiple files, and I can raise the whole room. I see there's a little gap there. Again, I could do it numerically, or for this case, I would probably just visualize it. Okay. I'm going to grab all of them, or again, I can shift select all of them and hit F. I'm having some rendering issues here, so I'm going to hit the spacebar again. You know, computer graphics and computers sometimes act up, and that's fine. So here I have a nice little perspective. And again, if you remember your 1-point perspective, it will go to that single point, which is really nice. And then you can use this as a room for animation and whatnot. Okay. Now, if we go to this view, this is an orthographic view, which means there is no perspective, you see. And so it won't get smaller as you go far back. No matter how far back I push this wall, even if I go really, really, really far, whoa, you see it's staying where it looks the same size because it's not using perspective. but this, of course, is. And so you'll see tiny wall, even though the walls are the same size. All right, Command Z, so I get my room back. Okay. So how would you imagine you would create, out of these simple objects, a bed? Okay, again, you can create from scratch, or you can use the existing objects and scale it down. Now, if you're trying to be accurate, you should, get out a tape measure, measure your bed, and use that for your numbers. If these are toys, then pretend these are inches and use that, and everything will work out relatively correct. If we're using feet, this is a real size bed, then you got to use feet and put in the appropriate numbers. In this case, in this little tutorial, and for this class, depending on where you're going, we're just going to stick with kind of just making it look okay. So there's a bed. Okay. Do I want a frame? Sure, I want a frame. Command D. I have this giant wall, but I'm going to scale it down, shrink it down. Now I have a frame, and I'm going to put it near the wall. There's inside the wall, right at the edge of the wall. Okay. Again, you can do a lot of things with primitives. This is like playing with Legos. You can't really deform the Legos, but you can do a lot of cool things. And of course, as for those who get more interested in 3D modeling and animation, of course, you can start really starting to deform these objects more like clay to create whatever you want, including human faces and human anatomy and whatnot. All right, so that is basic modeling. Maybe this person has an exercise ball, so I got primitive sphere. Whoa, very big, so I scale it. Again, I don't want to scale it this way unless he has one of those strange cushions. I want to scale it from the middle so it goes in all dimensions. And you'll see here, it's scaling it in all dimensions. Okay, so this is someone's exercise ball. Again, I'm going to go ahead and throw in a floor so it's a little easier for me to see without having to go from the side view. I'm going to make the Y really small. I'm just going to do numerics. I'm going to type in 10, 5. So 10 is really big, so maybe I will eye this one. And maybe it's fine that it overlaps a little bit, as long as it's contained. Now you can see, you always have to look around because it looked like I was fine, but it turned out that, oh no, I'm just way below. So I got to raise this up. Okay, all right. And now that I have that, I can put my bed a little higher, and my ball, I can put it a little higher. Okay. I'll really quickly just make a table, just so you could see how I would approach to create a table. Again, very, very similar. So I'll put it against the wall. I'm going to scale it. And again, normally I would be creating these with measurements in mind of what it is, but for this class, we're just gonna treat it like Lego, where we're just having fun, and it doesn't have to be exactly accurate. Okay. So there's a table. Like, well, I have drawers in my table. Okay, well, then let's make it a little bit bigger for our file cabinet. Let's push both of these in a little bit. Let's copy that one, Command D, and let's shrink it. Hit F so I can kind of see. And since it's just superficial, I'm just going to push it in with the blue, like so. Push it down, Command D, and raise the copy up like that. I'm going to do Command D one more time because I'm going to just for fun, I'm going to create tiny little square handles. You're like, well, where'd it go? Well, it went inside because I scaled it in that dimension. So again, you can wireframe and you'll see, oh, there it is. Pull it out. But what I was trying to do was really create this tiny little I guess might as well just make it not make it take up so much space. It doesn't really matter, again, if you're just doing something visual. Of course, if we wanted to actually put files in here, if this was a game where they're actually going to open up this file cabinet, then we have to build it a little bit more like a real file cabinet where it would have a hollow inside and all those details. Okay. Alrighty. So I do want to show you one more thing. I'm going to put this frame above the table instead. What I want to show you is two ways to make a door if you wanted a door. Okay. So one way, of course, so three ways. I'm going to explain one way. One way, of course, is you could put a rectangles, 1, 2, 3, and then a door, and kind of fake a door, But what if you actually want an opening? You're going to make another room, for example. One way, of course, is to use the existing skills you have, which is, well, I don't know how to cut holes into things, so I'm just going to make this wall smaller, Command D, and put another wall on this side, and make that smaller. And what do you think I'm going to do next? Yep, I'm going to scale this down, raise this up, and put it there. Okay. So I kind of create a doorway that way. Okay. So that's one way. Oops, cancel. If you remember from Illustrator, a tool called the Pathfinder. The Pathfinder allowed you to create vectors in Illustrator and join them and cut them. That term is generally called Boolean drawing or Boolean modeling. Boolean meaning on or off, true or false. Add, subtraction of objects. So I'm going to do a little Boolean modeling like in Pathfinder, except I'm going to use shapes. I want to keep this wall, but I want to make the door size. I'm going to kind of create almost like a cutout, like a stencil, like a mold. So I'm going to create this door. So it's important that this cutout goes through the wall. If you don't go through the wall, then you're just going to create a little tiny crevice in the wall. But if you want to cut through the wall, just punch it through. It doesn't matter if it overlaps down, because there's nothing there to cut anyway. So just like Illustrator Pathfinder, it won't necessarily do anything. The key is that it cuts exactly where you want. So I'm going to do that. So again, it doesn't matter if it's chopping out there. Now, like in Illustrator, where you select the two objects you want to do it, the order matters in this case because there is no on top or below, since everything is relative. So you click on the object you want to keep, which is the wall, and you shift the second object, which is the thing you want to use to cut. And then here under Mesh Booleans, you can see here that you can join them together so that it becomes one giant polygon. Or you can say, give me the difference. This is the subtraction. And so now you have a cutout. Okay. Now, if you try to grab the whole room because you want to rotate it or scale it, notice what happens. Whoa, everything is doing it relative to its center point. Okay. Same thing with rotation. Everything is not rotating together, which is kind of cool. You can, I guess, do some cool surreal animations or videos this way. But if you're trying to treat this as an object, as one object that you want to rotate, you have to group it. Again, similar concepts in Photoshop and Illustrator. You can group it by using the shortcut Command G or going to Edit, Group. If you do that, this becomes a group. And now I can rotate the object, scale it as a group. Okay. Now, if you deselect and you click on an object and you try to do it again, this time, even though it's grouped, it won't work because it thinks you're trying to select them as individual items. You have to be in group mode to say, no, I want to grab the group that I made. Up here, you have 3 different modes. This is the group mode. You click on that, it's calling it hierarchy and combinations. And now I click any of these objects, even the ball, it grabs the whole group. If I go this, which is the default mode, the object type, then it only grabs the individual items. Even if you grab them all, it still treats them as individual items. Okay. And this is for those who want to get a little more advanced and who want to get a little more advanced and start manipulating little vertices. So for example, if you want to give this ball a little spike, it lets you grab the polygon components of the ball and pull them up. How about we give them a little ears? So I can shift, just like in files, like in Photoshop, shift both of those and raise them both at the same time. So now we have a little creature ball. Okay. And that would be more advanced modeling. Again, for most of you, don't worry about this component mode. Just worry about object mode or group mode. Okay. Now, the last thing I'll say about manipulating your group is if you're in group mode and you're rotating it, you can see it's rotating it about this bed area. What if I want to do it, rotate it around the center? Well, you can go to Modify and Center the Pivot. And now puts it in the center of the room. Okay. Well, what if I want it to be on the floor? Because I don't want it to pivot off the floor. You see it's pivoting on that axis. You can move it anywhere you want. To move your pivot, you hit D by itself, and you can move the pivot wherever you want. You can move it right. Let's pivot everything around the ball. How about that? Oh, here am I at the ball or am I behind it? Am I in front of it? I'm not quite sure, so I have to look around. And actually, I'm pretty good. Maybe I can go a little more forward. And then you hit D again, and you go back to its normal mode. And now everything pivots around that ball. Okay. And that's the basics of 3D modeling with primitives. Feel free to ask your instructor or me any questions, and we will be glad to help you.